Steam Next Fest is our chance to check out some of the most exciting upcoming games. Survival, Souls-like, narrative adventures, you name it, more than likely there is a demo to be played. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and today we're diving into a handful of potential gems, games we went hands-on with that we think you should put on your radar. If there's one thing Livid and I agree on, it's that narrative adventure and puzzle platformers are incredible when done right. Toss in a unique art style, a relaxing atmosphere, or an experience that effortlessly pulls you along, and you've likely sold us. Caravan Sandwich does all of that and more, and it might have just shot up on our list as one of the most anticipated titles of the year. High praise, I know, but let's break that down for you. Everything takes place on Sigalo, a planet once teeming with life and ripe with resources, now fully exploited by humans teetering between areas of dense vegetation and deserted wasteland. You'll interact with the various communities on Sigalo, be it the remaining humans, the aboriginal Ranatos, and the AI robots. You'll meet new friends, help them with their tasks, complete quests, and explore every nook and cranny of the world as you scavenge for vital tech components. There is no combat, no death, no timer, just an overarching quest to find out what happened to your missing sister and the journey you take to get there. You're able to travel, explore, and solve increasingly difficult puzzles either on foot or with your van. Along the way, you'll equip and upgrade a wide array of tools for that van that assist in solving puzzles, traversal, maneuvering obstacles, and dealing with the rogue tech being used against you. After stepping out into the sunlight for the first time, we were hooked and fell in love with the overall ambiance and art style of the game. There are even little vistas, cozy corners, and indoor environments you can rest at while the game enters a cinematic mode to showcase that environment. The world is also scaled in such a way that makes you drawn to explore it all, something not easily achieved. Throughout our time with the demo, we were hooked on the variety of puzzles. They weren't inherently difficult, but it was the starting zone, and it's clear the team is going to expand the complexity of these throughout your adventure. Honestly, our one complaint is that the game doesn't have voiced dialogue. We can get over something like this pretty easily, but we'd be lying if we said it wouldn't improve an already stellar first showing of the game. For anyone that enjoys exploring familiar but alien environments, puzzle platforming, and really want a game that they can truly feel chill playing, Caravan Sandwich is a game you should check out. The next game we wanted to try out was Flintlock Siege of Dawn, which is releasing in full on July 18th. The trailers have been flashy, but you know us, we need to go hands-on before we can form any sort of opinion, and when it comes to Flintlock, it's a mixed bag. First off, the game has a cool premise and setting. You play as a sapper named Nor, a frontline trench-fighting soldier who's sent to set off explosives and breach paths for the main forces. However, this time the target is a magical door that unintentionally unleashes long sealed-away gods and their armies into the land of Kian. You awaken days later learning that nearly everyone you love is under siege or already dead, and with the help of a lesser god named Enki, the two of you swear to exact vengeance and kill all gods. Within the demo, you have access to several areas, some early on in the game, and some a touch later in the game's narrative, and both are really there to teach you the various systems and mechanics. The first thing we noticed was the character's movement. Whether it be running, climbing, or jumping, it all just feels rigid and ungrounded. Once you start using black powder, movement does feel better, but the issue persists. It was mainly the aerial tricks and traversal skills that made the experience better. This is unfortunate given that the world, while mostly linear, seems to also embrace verticality. There were plenty of secret paths, traversal puzzles, hidden quests, and more that would hide additional items or weapons, and that felt really good. On the other hand, you have the combat, which overall feels responsive and rather snappy, but there is a huge emphasis on parrying and counterattacking. One of the demo's optional mini-bosses required you to constantly parry every attack in order to strip away the enemy's armor, and that takes a decent chunk of time. It was a cool fight, and countering enemy attacks with a wide variety of cinematic follow-up attacks does feel good, but it gets repetitive. It does look like you have options within the skill tree that could help you alleviate these issues by tapping into Enki's abilities, but those contribute a much smaller percentage than parrying does. That being said, there were over 20 nodes we couldn't access, and at this point, we're not experiencing the complete combat picture. As you defeat enemies without getting hit, a stacking multiplier increases, and the reputation, this game's version of Souls, is awarded accordingly. The cool thing, we got an awesome weapon off that optional boss we just mentioned that deals more damage based on your reputation multiplier. Not only is this a smart way to accelerate progression through near-perfect play, but having gear that builds off of that multiplier rewards higher skilled players. While we are mixed right now, we are pretty excited about this title dropping on July 18th, so we can experience everything Flintlock has to offer. Roguelikes are my bread and butter, if that wasn't clear based on our coverage of games like Hades, Dead Cells, Darkest Dungeon, and more. I absolutely love them, and their ascension from indie darlings to mainstream games just makes me happy. After playing through the entire demo, it's clear that Wizard of Legend 2, with its 4-player co-op, could be the roguelike breakout hit of 2024. In Wizard of Legend 2, you take to the Trials of Legend, an ever-shifting dungeon that mixes up environments, enemies, and bosses every time you begin a run. These trials, hosted by Wizard Supreme Hieronymus, are different every time, and if your wizard dies during a run, you'll select an entirely new one with randomized perks to continue progressing. Each run means more upgrades, more passive perks and appearances, and more spells to unlock. In the demo, we had access to aspects of fire, water, earth, lightning, and air, with chaos being a 6th aspect unlocked when the full game releases. These spells can evolve or sometimes be replaced during a run, allowing for compounding synergies with other spells or aspects. There's also a cool spell amplification system called Signature Arcana. Dealing damage with your various Arcana skills will gradually fill up a blue bar. Once full, your signature skill becomes temporarily supercharged, allowing you to unleash devastating attacks in a large AoE, often killing most enemies outright. We had a lot of fun with these aspects of the game and found some of the gameplay combinations absolutely bonkers. For example, during one run, we'd get gold for each kill we got with a basic spell, and picking up gold would heal us for a percentage of our health. Ultimately, we were able to sustain through pretty much anything, at least in the early stages. This game is a blast, and while it doesn't have an exact release date, it's coming out this year, and it's worth keeping an eye on. Next up, let's talk about Aloft, an upcoming co-op sandbox survival game slated for a Q3 2024 release. It's a cozy, airborne survival game that you can play solo or with 7 additional friends, set amongst floating islands in a vast open sky, circling around a gigantic storm. You'll travel from island to island, purging corruption, restoring each island's natural ecosystem, and uncovering lost knowledge like lore, craftables, and more. The best part, you can transform any island into a flying airship, having it operate as your home base. If you don't think that's cool, well then I just don't know what to tell you. In terms of the controls, it's clear that this is a very early version of the game that still needs some work, but the bones are there. Movement and traversal feels rigid, with your running, jumping, and even attacking feeling stiff and honestly not something we tolerate in 2024. We really hope this drastically improves ahead of release because it's one of, if not the only thing holding the game back. Gameplay-wise, resource gathering feels great with a unique timed hit mechanic that speeds up your harvest rate and gets you into a fun farming rhythm. Trees fall over and require you to break down each log, while other subtler resources can be found on stumps that are left behind, such as blue beetles and mushrooms. Once you have all your resources, then crafting opens up, and this system is really neat. First of all, you discover craftable recipes by slotting raw and refined resources into the crafting table until you make a combination that can reveal a new recipe. We really loved this aspect of crafting because it was always enjoyable getting some new or refined resource and immediately thinking to ourselves, oh man, how many new things is this going to let us craft? Not all craftable knowledge can be found by this method or even by the random knowledge stones that grant recipes scattered amongst the islands. A lot of structures, crafting stations, and more actually require you to find them already built or in disrepair on the islands. You'll then need to pull out your sketchbook, ensuring you have the paper resource, and sketch the unlearned object you want to be able to craft for yourself. This is one of the cooler features we've experienced in a survival game, especially one that leans so heavily into exploration. The fact is, there's a potentially awesome new recipe waiting for you wherever you go, and that's just brilliant design. The building aspects are equally impressive, and being able to harness the power of the wind is a ton of fun. Not only can you pilot islands by installing a helm, rudder, and various types of sails, depending on their size and load, but there are also supposedly ways to augment your crafting machines through wind power, utilizing windmills, cables, and pulleys, but we didn't get to test that during the demo. Overall, the game has a lot of potential, and even though the UI, combat, and traversal feels rough, the rest of the game is really shaping up to be something special. We couldn't finish our list without including an honorable mention or two, and this first one genuinely reminded us what it's like to just play an absolute nonsensical game for the fun of it. If you've ever wondered how a car would function with giraffe legs, shark fins, or riding a bike, well, What the Car probably has an answer for you. The goal is simple: get your horrific car contraption from point A to point B without barreling off the edge of the map. The situations are hilarious, and yes, sometimes downright frustrating, like the time we entered a challenge level that had us as a, and I quote, soccer ball cannon car. We had no wheels, we had no steering, all we had was an air-powered soccer ball cannon on our underside that we needed to aim and fire to be launched in the right direction. Trying to complete that map while other cannons were shooting at us, floor panels were sending us in random directions at high speed, and trying to gauge our momentum just right to hit the ramps, well, it was a wild experience to say the least. The overworld basically functions like a classic node-based Mario, but the cool thing here is that you're allowed to freely move around. Why would you want to do that? Well, the developers also hid secret levels and funny encounters behind tiny puzzles and platforming sections, something we genuinely were not expecting. There's even a player level editor where you can share your creations with others, something that fits just perfectly with this type of game. From top to bottom, the demo experience was fantastic, and we just had some big dumb grins on our face the entire time, which is ultimately what games are all about. What the Car releases on September 9th. The second honorable mention goes to Dungeons of Hinterberg, and there is definitely something here with this game. We just aren't entirely sure if the demo sold us on the entire experience. The premise and genre mashup is really unique and charming, combining an action-adventure RPG with a hyper-stylized dungeon crawler set in the fictional location of Hinterberg within the Austrian Alps. You play as Louisa, on vacation from her fast-paced corporate life, attempting to become the master slayer of the Dungeon of Hinterberg. Equipped with your magical snowboard, you'll zip down glaciers, speed through forests, and climb through mountainous terrain, attempting to discover each and every dungeon the game has to offer. Every dungeon both hides and rewards loot that you can use to upgrade and kit out your character, with most dungeons containing simple and complex puzzles that block your path and challenge your problem-solving abilities. There are also some very clear Mario Galaxy inspirations in the level design, embracing terrain as a full sphere, with speed rails and launchers connecting everything. It's a chill and unique experience for the most part, with combat happening in sectioned off areas within enemy aggro range. Within the combat system, you'll unlock various new weapons, armor, consumables, and magical spells, the latter of which is limited by your overall NP and cooldowns. The game is genuinely one of the more unique and highly stylized we've played in a long time, and I don't think we'll know for certain if we love it till we get a chance to go hands-on when it fully launches on July 18th. So there you have it, a whole host of unique indie titles we checked out during the Steam Next Fest that we think you should all keep on your radar. Heck, if their demos are still available, you can even give them a shot right now. To us, indies are more important to the growth of gaming as a whole than most gamers realize. New genres, new mechanics, and entirely new concepts are often spawned or perfected here, and that permeates throughout gaming as a whole. Just think back 10 years ago when the roguelite genre was truly just breaking onto the scene, with indie developers leading the charge. Since then, hundreds, if not thousands of roguelites have been released, some even in the AAA space. While the graphics may not be that hyper-realistic expectation that a lot of you define as good, don't sleep on a game simply because of an art style. You could be missing out on an absolute gem of a game. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.